My name is Laura Bennett, and I want to tell you about the day I died. It happened on a crisp autumn morning, November 26th, 2023. I woke up like any other day, kissed my husband David goodbye, poured a cup of coffee, and headed to the school library where I worked. I had no idea that just a few hours later, my heart would stop and I'd be standing on the edge of eternity. What happened next didn't just change me, it rewrote everything I thought I knew about life, death, and what lies beyond. I'm not telling this story to convince anyone of anything. I'm sharing it because, in that moment of crossing over, I found an answer to a question that had haunted me for years. Can the dead really hear us? I didn't know before. I wasn't sure, but now I know without a doubt. Before that day, my life was simple and full of grace. I loved being a librarian, the smell of old books, the gentle hush of children flipping through pages. It was my peace. David and I had been married for 25 years, raising two beautiful kids who had already left the nest. We weren't perfect, but we loved well and tried our best to live with kindness, humility, and faith. My faith had always been the quiet rhythm of my life. I prayed, I forgave, I trusted. And yet, there were seasons when doubt crept in, whispering that maybe God wasn't listening. I kept praying anyway. I believed in heaven, but I didn't fully understand it until my mom passed 5 years ago. Her death shattered me. She had been my anchor. After she died, I would whisper into the silence, "I miss you, Mom. Can you hear me?" I longed for some sign that she was still near, but nothing ever came until the day I died, and everything changed. It started like a whisper of panic, just a strange pressure in my chest. I was sitting at my desk in the library, cataloging a new shipment of books when it hit me. A sudden crushing pain, like a vice, had clamped around my ribs. I froze. For a second. I thought maybe it was anxiety or indigestion, but then it intensified, sharp and unrelenting, until I couldn't breathe. I tried to call out, but my voice failed me. Everything around me blurred. I remember falling, the world turning sideways, and then nothing, just darkness. Time disappeared. Then, in a moment I can't quite explain, I opened my eyes. Not my physical ones, but something deeper. I was floating above my body, watching the chaos unfold beneath me. People gathered, their faces twisted in fear. I could hear voices calling my name, feel the urgency of their movements. But I wasn't afraid. I wasn't in pain anymore. I felt weightless. That's when I noticed the light. It wasn't like any light on earth. It didn't glare or blind. It was soft, radiant, and alive. It didn't shine on me. It pulled me in, like it knew me. I felt it before I even reached it, a warmth that wrapped around my soul like a blanket I didn't know I'd been missing. There was no fear, no confusion, just peace. And as I moved toward it, every step, or whatever you'd call it in that realm, filled me with a sense of belonging I had never known. Like I was going home after a lifetime away. That's when I saw them. Figures in the light, waiting, familiar, recognizable. My mother stood at the front of them all. Her smile lit up everything inside me. She looked so whole, so alive. Behind her, my grandmother, a childhood friend who died too young. Even a cousin I hadn't thought of in years. They were all there, radiating love. And they knew me. They knew me. And somehow, without saying a word, I knew they had heard every prayer I'd ever whispered. I didn't have to speak. I didn't have to move. Everything was understood. They greeted me not with words, but with pure feeling. Waves of love, peace, joy, and complete understanding. I had never felt so fully known and so fully accepted. My mother's presence overwhelmed me. I had spent 5 years grieving her absence, wondering if she could still hear me when I spoke into the quiet. And now, there she was, smiling, radiant, more alive than I had ever remembered her being. She didn't say, "I heard you," but somehow I knew she had. So did my grandmother. So did the others. It was as if every tear I'd cried, every whispered, "I miss you," every moment of silent prayer had traveled across some invisible veil and reached them. And then I felt something else. A presence I couldn't fully see, but I knew it was there. It was deeper than light, more powerful than anything I'd ever encountered. The very atmosphere shimmered with its presence. It didn't speak, yet it filled every part of me with knowing. God, not an image, not a booming voice, just love. Love that saw everything I was, everything I had ever done, and loved me anyway. I stood there, wrapped in that light, and for the first time in my life, I understood. Death isn't the end. It's not a cliff we fall off, it's a doorway. And through that doorway, I saw the truth. The dead aren't gone. They're with us, listening, watching, loving us from a place where time and pain don't exist. I felt their awareness of my life, their presence in my hardest days. And I finally knew I had never really been alone, not once. Then, like a tide rolling in, memories began to surface. They didn't rush or overwhelm me. They came one by one, moments from my life, playing out with perfect clarity. Some were big, our wedding day, holding my children for the first time, but most were small, ordinary things I hadn't thought about in years. A time I sat beside a friend in silence when she needed comfort. A day I chose patience with my son instead of snapping at him. A moment I forgave someone who had hurt me deeply. Each memory carried weight, not judgment, but meaning. I realized everything matters, even the things we think are forgotten. I also saw the times I'd fallen short, harsh words spoken in anger, opportunities missed, times I held on to bitterness instead of letting go. But there was no condemnation, just understanding, like heaven wanted me to see, not to punish, but to reveal how our choices ripple through others, how every decision either brings love or takes it away. That's when I felt the heaviness of forgiveness, not as a duty, but as freedom, forgiving others, forgiving myself. I saw how clinging to pain had built invisible walls in my heart, and I saw what happens when we choose to let go, the healing that flows not just to us, but through us, to everyone we touch. And then came something I never expected, the prayers. I felt them, real, living things, like threads of light stretching across dimensions. I could feel my husband praying, desperate, broken, calling me back. I could hear my daughter's voice whispering through tears, "Please don't go, Mom." It didn't sound like sound, it was deeper, more intimate. It moved through me, and in that moment I understood. Prayer isn't wishful thinking. It's not just words. It's power, connection, a lifeline of love that crosses even the divide between life and death. And I wasn't ready to let go of it yet. I felt the pull. It wasn't harsh or sudden. It was gentle, like a hand on my shoulder, softly reminding me that something remained undone. Part of me wanted to stay in that radiant place forever. There was no pain, no fear, no uncertainty, only peace, belonging, and a love deeper than any ocean. For the first time in my life, I felt completely whole. But then I saw him, my husband. He was beside my hospital bed, gripping my hand like it was the only thing anchoring him to hope. His face was soaked with tears. His lips trembled as he whispered prayers through sobs, and next to him, my daughter. Her face pressed against my shoulder, eyes swollen, pleading, "Mom, please come back." That's when I knew my time wasn't done. The light, the love, the presence, it would always be there. But my story on earth wasn't finished. I had more to say, more love to give, more forgiveness to live out. So, with one last look at my mother's glowing smile and my grandmother's tender eyes, I let go of that eternal warmth and returned. It wasn't easy. The second I entered my body, pain slammed into me. My chest burned. My lungs fought for air. Machines beeped in a frenzy. Voices shouted. But underneath the chaos, I felt something new, a knowing, a certainty I'd never had before, that everything I saw was real. And what's more, the dead can hear us. They feel our grief. They celebrate our joys. They carry our love with them, just as we carry their memory here. The wall between us isn't made of stone. It's thin, like mist. And every prayer, every kind word, every act of love echoes across that veil. I had crossed over, and now I had a message to share. Since that day, everything has changed. I still live in the same house. I still fold laundry, answer emails, and sip my morning coffee. But I'm not the same woman who collapsed at her desk on November 26th. Something inside me shifted permanently. I no longer fear death. I no longer wonder if my prayers are heard. I know they are, because I've been there. I've stood in that place beyond time where love never dies and the soul is fully known. And I've come back with a truth that's too important to keep quiet. Our voices carry, our words, our prayers, our thoughts. They don't vanish into nothing. They reach across the veil. And the ones we've lost, they're not truly gone. They're with us. They hear us when we whisper their names into the silence. They feel it when we cry in the night, clutching their photo to our chest. And they respond, sometimes in dreams, sometimes in that unexpected feeling of peace, or in the way a song comes on the radio at just the right moment. Their love didn't end. It transformed, and it waits, watching, encouraging us to live fully until it's our turn to come home. So if you've lost someone, I want you to know this. Keep talking to them. Tell them what you never got to say. Ask for their guidance. Share your heart, because they hear you. And more than that, they feel your love. And for those still walking this earth, live like it matters. Love generously. Forgive often. Be slow to anger and quick to grace, because one day we'll all stand where I stood, and we'll see clearer than ever before that every moment of kindness, every act of mercy, every prayer spoken in faith echoes into eternity. Thank you for listening to my story. If something I shared stirred something in your heart, then maybe, just maybe, it wasn't by accident. Maybe you needed to hear it. Maybe someone you've lost has been trying to remind you that they're not far, that they're still near, that they hear you. So don't keep your heart closed. Don't bury your words. Speak them. Say the things you didn't get to say. Whisper their name. Tell them you love them. Forgive, apologize, laugh, cry. Whatever it is, let it out, because it matters. They can hear you. And if you've been carrying doubt, fear, or pain, I want you to know this. You are not alone. You are seen. You are loved more than you can imagine, not just by those here with you, but by those who have gone ahead. I believe with everything inside me that God allowed me to return, not just to live, but to tell you this, to remind you that heaven is real, that love doesn't die, that grace is bigger than our mistakes, that prayer is power, and that every moment of your life matters. So live like it matters. Love boldly. Forgive freely. Pray without hesitation, and remember that one day, when your time comes, there will be arms waiting for you too. Light will surround you. Peace will flood you, and all the questions you've ever carried will be answered, not with explanations, but with love. Until then, walk with hope, speak with kindness, and never ever forget you are deeply loved, both in this life and beyond. And if this testimony brought you peace or gave you something to hold on to, please don't keep it to yourself. Share it. Someone else may need it just as much as you did. Hit that like button. Subscribe. Join us. These stories matter because you matter. I'm Laura Bennett, and I was given a second chance to remind you that death is not the end. It's just the beginning.